Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a syncing tutorial and a pan crop tutorial in one. So yeah, so I got the finished clip. This is what we're going to be making. Yeah. So unfortunately I'm not doing trick shotting syncing. I'm just doing sniping syncing and cinematics. But yeah, so if you're coming for trick shotting syncing, sorry about that. Anyway, so I recorded some cinematics for this. I'll have the project file with the clip and the cinematics if you just want to look through everything that we do or anything. But yeah, so let's just get started. So right here I got a Black Ops 3 clip and I already have the song marked out. I'll just here. So I marked the hi-hats as well as the bass and the kick and the snare, just because sometimes you can use them and they look pretty good, but for most of these I don't think I'm going to be using the hi-hat marker for any velocity points, but we'll see. So in the video I started off with a gunshot, so that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do the same thing. So what you're gonna want to do is line up where the beat comes in, so right there, and put the first shot, or you don't actually have to do the first shot, you can make it the second beat and have it come in when he's like running up to the players, but I'm just gonna do it on the first shot, and then hit Alt. I don't know if this is bracket, I think it's bracket, but Alt left bracket, and then that cuts it, or you can just do that. So there we go. So I'm just gonna cut that on the start so that it just, here, I'll show it. So there, and so now I'm gonna sync up the second shot. So this is the snare, so I'm gonna put the shot right there. So I'm gonna find where he shoots the gun, and I'm gonna hit Control Shift D, and then shift it over to where I want it, which is the snare right here. And then I can cut off this excess. So now let's see this. Okay, and then the next shot, I'm gonna line up right to the kick. So Control Shift D cuts the clip, and you can just line it up. Okay. So then I put a cinematic, I believe, right, let's see. Right there. So right on the second snare, so that's what I'm gonna do. So right here, I'm gonna cut it and then leave space for the cinematic. And then put the shot right on the kick. So right there. Alt left bracket, that cuts it. So there we go. And then I believe I ended on the snare. So then you can Alt right bracket to cut it that way, the end of it off. So this is what we're working with. We're gonna have to Twixtor it though so that it looks nice. But here, this is what it looks like. Okay, I think there was a little bug in there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use Twixtor to edit the velocity of how fast the video is playing. I'm just going to use Twixtor. Some people use Twixtor Pro. I don't really understand why. They're pretty much the same thing. So once you've applied it onto your first clip, you're going to want to go to where it says motion vectors, put that on no motion vectors, and frame interpret, put that on nearest, and then put the frame rate to whatever frame rate the clip is. So it should be 59.94, that's 60 FPS. So just keep it at that. And then you're going to want to, you're going to want to go to the first frame and then keyframe the speed %, and then move forward 1 frame and then set it to 250, or you can make it a higher number depending on like how fast or slow the song is. Different speeds can fit, but for this one we're just going to do 250. That's usually what I use. And then go forward 1, type in 50, and then go forward another, and then type in 250. So then it should be 100 the first frame, and then 250, 50, 250. And then what we're going to do is select the last 3. You don't want to select the one that's 100% speed. And then you're going to hit Alt and then drag like that right up to the last frame of that section, that little clip. So right now we're going to go, if you click this button, this is the graph editor, and what you can do is select the same keyframes that you moved with the Alt drag and hit F9 on your keyboard, and now you can adjust like the speeds more, like better. And what we're gonna do is just adjust these to sort of look like a U shape, just like that. So now it goes from 250 and then sort of eases down to 50 and then 250 again. So that usually looks pretty good. So let's just see what that looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good. So then for the next clip, the next shot, we're going to do the same thing. Unfortunately, you can't copy and paste Twixtor, so you have to re-enter in all of your values. So motion vectors, turn that on no, frame interpret, nearest, and then 60 FPS. Okay. So then you want to hit the speed keyframe, and also to bring up these keyframes on your timeline, hit U, and that'll show every keyframe that you have. So what you want to do is just copy these keyframes that you made on the first clip, and copy them, Control C, and then go right after the frame when he shoots, and then Control V. That should copy them. So we have another beat here, so what you're going to do is Alt click and drag to that beat. So then it goes from 250 to 50 to 250 for the next beat, and then you're going to do Control V again to copy and paste that, and then Alt drag that right before the next shot. So that works, but when you overwrite the last keyframe from the last U shape, it messes it up, so you just have to fix that. So now this should look fine. That looks pretty good. So then we're just going to do the same thing for this. So also, if you want to close up these keyframes, you can hit TT, and that just will close everything up so it looks a little cleaner. So we're going to load Twixtor, no motion vectors, nearest, 60 FPS, and keyframe the speed. and then you can hit U so that you can see where you're pasting the keyframes. It's Control V, same thing, and yeah, so that lines up perfectly. So just make sure that the last keyframe right here is right before the end of the clip, unless you have another beat. This is a hi-hat, so I'm not going to sync that, so we can just delete that. That looks good. Although sometimes if it doesn't look smooth, I'll edit it a little bit like this. I don't really like how the gun changes right before it ends, like this. I don't know. It's sort of just a little thing. I'll just drag this down a little bit so it's not as... Usually it looks a little better. It's all personal preference, really. So then we're going to go on to the last clip right here. Apply Twixtor again. No motion vectors, nearest 59.94. Select the speed. Because a lot of people, what they do is they'll keyframe, they forget to move forward once after they keyframed 100% speed, and they just do that. See, this doesn't do anything. You have to have that 100% keyframe before you do your 250, 50, 250. So there we go. And I believe this is a hi-hat, so I'm not going to sync that, but I'm quite sure. Yeah, it's a hi-hat, so no point syncing that. So then alt drag this right to the end, and this should look pretty good. There we go. So next thing we're gonna do is cinematics. Cinematics are a little different. They're pretty easy to do though. So we're just gonna drag in this first cinematic that I used in the beginning of it. Yeah, here we go. So what you're gonna want to do is line up, or actually no, here. I'm just gonna take away the sound. You want to right click on the clip and then select time, enable time remapping. And then what you can do is just select a keyframe wherever you want the cinematic to start, and then drag the time to where is like where the cinematic starts. So we're gonna start the cinematic like here probably, and I could sync it to this as well, but I don't think I'm going to. And then alt right bracket to cut that. And then you can take your timer map and make another keyframe at the end of where you want the cinematic to end up. So that's good. I think this cinematic's in a little higher resolution than natural composition, so I'm just going to scale that. There we go. Okay, so if you hit U, you can get back to your keyframes. There it is. So right now, if we take a look at this, it's probably not going to look that good because there's no velocity on it. Or not velocity, but no speed manipulation. Yeah, it doesn't look very good. So I might shift this up a little bit as well. Just like that. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is go into your graph editor like we did with Twixtor and select these two dots that you did and hit F9. But instead of making a U shape, we're going to make like a little squiggle shape. So just like that, and that essentially does the same thing. So because when the line is flat, so say like that, when it's flat, it means that the speed is at 0, so it's not like playing at all. And if it's straight vertical, that's like a really high speed. So you just want to make it so that it's a less harsh line, and it's more horizontal than vertical in the middle, and then more vertical at the edges. So That looks pretty good, but I don't really like the speed that it has at the beginning because it's not very, like, I don't have a beat there, so it just looks unnecessary. So I'm just going to slow this down by raising this up a little bit and then making the curve a little less harsh. Maybe a little, maybe even more. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Excuse me. Yeah, that looks good. So, once you've tweaked it to your liking, it should be fine. So that works for me. And yeah, so that's how you do cinematics basically. I'm just gonna do the other two that I used. I think this one, right when he shoots, it's the same deal. So you right click time, enable time remapping, and then set a keyframe for like wherever your cinematic is starting, and you can drag the time. Oh, whoops, no, this is wrong cinematic. Here, this one. Yeah. So right click time, enable time remapping, and go to wherever you want the cinematic to start. So you can drag the time back, just like this. I'm gonna have it start like around here, and then at the end, like right before the shot, make it maybe end up like right there, something like that. And then alt right bracket to cut the clip, and then alt left bracket on the other side. So yeah, and then graph editor, and then we're gonna do the same thing. Select them both, hit F9, and do the same thing. So we'll see what this looks like. That works, I think. Yeah, it looks fine to me. Just yeah, it looks pretty good. You can mess around with it. I'm not gonna do like fiddle with it too much because it's just a tutorial, but that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's see what this looks like in full. Okay, so if you notice in the finished clip, it sort of fades away into the running away cinematic like that, and I'll show you how to do that. So first thing we want to do is take the cinematic and just sync it up like it wouldn't be a fade. So right after, yeah. Okay, so I'll just alt left bracket. So there we go. So right once this clip ends, we're gonna start the cinematic. So right click, enable time remapping, and do wherever we want it to start. I'm just gonna do it right there, and then wherever we want it to end. So let's listen. Right there, we'll have it end there. So yeah, that's probably good. Alt right bracket, and we'll do the same thing. So go into graph editor, hit F9, and make a little squiggle thing. That looks good. It's a little slow though, so I'm just gonna raise this up. The more you raise this, the further it goes into the video. So that should work. So I'm just like messing with it. You don't have to mess with it like this much. I'm just sort of picky about it. You know what? That'll work. Doesn't look very good in my opinion, but I guess it looks fine. So yeah, so basically you just want to mess around with it till you think it looks good. This is alright, and yeah, so you can leave it just like this where it's at the end of the clip and it just cuts to a cinematic, but in the finished clip that I showed you, we faded it in. So the way that I did this is I dragged it out. I dragged this clip. I'll just hide this clip right now. The cinematic. I dragged this out to the next kick. So if you listen, that's the next kick. And the thing is, if you don't adjust anything else, it'll be stuck at 250 speed, and you don't want that. So what I did was I copied the keyframes, the original keyframes that we were doing the velocity with, and I just synced it back up like I'd be syncing up to a shot, just like that. So now, oh yeah, also it messes up your keyframes when you do 2 in one clip, so gotta fix that. So that should work. And then what you're gonna want to do is go into, right, sorry about that, I just had to cut the video because my brother walked in the room. So okay, so basically what we're gonna do is just keyframe the opacity from the cinematic, or from the clip to the cinematic. So the way you want to do that is you want to hit T on your keyboard for where the cinematic is. So here it is. So hit T on your keyboard and keyframe the opacity where it starts, and just lower it down to 0. And then right around when it ends, when the cinematic ends, or no, not right when the cinematic ends, when the clip ends, you put it to 100%. So now it should fade in just like that. So we'll see what that looks like. See, that's fine, but now since it's like it faded in, you didn't really see much of the velocity in the cinematic, so we'll just have to change that up a little bit. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. Nope. Raise this up a bit. That's alright, but I still want a little more speed. That'll work just for the tutorial. So yeah, so then what you're going to want to do for the opacity to just make it a little more smooth is select the 2 keyframes, from 100 to 0, or 0 to 100, and hit F9, and that'll just smooth out the curve, or not curve, the line. So that should work. Oh, whoops. This wasn't at the right place. There we go. Okay, I really don't like that, the the syncing on this, but I don't want to spend the whole video fidgeting with it, so let's just see what this looks like in full. Pretty good. So now what we're gonna do is add the pan and crop. So usually what I'll do is I'll do the pan and crop on the cinematics separately, but I guess I'll show you how to do that. So if you search up, you'll need Sapphire for this because I use s_shake. If you just do default, it looks like trash, so don't do that. My settings are usually like 0.5, 0.3. I took away the X shake, took away the tilt. I'm sorry if I'm going a little too fast. I'll have the project file in the description if you want to copy everything exactly. 2, I think. Y shake, something like that. Maybe something like 0.7, 0.5. See what that looks like. I'm gonna go with 0.6. Something around, something like that. It doesn't have to be exact, but that's usually what I use. Like, that's usually my shake settings, pretty close to that. So then you can just Control C, Control V onto your other cinematics, and it should work fine. So let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good. So then we're gonna do the clip pan and crop, which is a little more complicated, but we'll do it. So what you're gonna want to do is hit Control-Alt-Y, and that'll create an adjustment layer. And if you hit enter, you can rename it. So I'm just going to call it pan crow. And what you're going to want to do is put shake and transform, which is another effect on it. And this is what we're going to be making our shake out of. So our settings, so first of all, what we're going to do is keyframe. We'll just turn off the effects right now so that we can actually see the clip. You're going to want to go where the first shot is. We want the pan crop to when you want the size to be bigger and the shake to be more intense. And you're just going to keyframe the amplitude and keyframe the scale and make it about like 105. And hit U on the adjustment layer. And here we go. So now you have keyframes where the amplitude is 1 and the scale's 105. You're going to want to go a frame before that and set both, or no, set the amplitude to 0 and set the transform scale to 100, just like that. Now what we're going to do is for every shot we're going to copy and paste these keyframes. So Control C and then Control V on the next. So a frame before he shoots, paste those, that should work. And then a frame before he shoots here, paste those. And also we missed one of these, so paste that there as well. So wherever you have the beats marked, that's where you want to paste them. And this is a cinematic, so we're not actually going to have any pan and crop. So what you can do when the keyframe goes up to 1 amplitude and 105, you can just delete those keyframes so that it just goes from 1 and 105 to 0. and then it'll start back up once you keyframe it. Whoops. Keyframe that up to the next shot. So now it should be 0 across this whole, sorry about the bus sound. It should be 0 across the whole cinematic. And then this is a little bit tricky. What I usually do is I'll just make the size of the transform, like the pump, a little smaller when I'm doing fades into a cinematic. But for right now, we'll just do what we did before, and we can mess with that after. So there we go. And then you can erase that because there's a cinematic. Excuse me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is mess with the shake settings. So what I usually do is set the frequency to 1, go to the X shake, put the X rand amp on 0, put the Y rand amp on 0, oops, and the tilt shake on tilt rand amp 0, because random shake looks sort of bad in my opinion. So what I like to do for the tilt wave amp is put that on 2, put the tilt wave frequency on 1, whoops, 1, and then go to Y shake and make this like 12 for the Y wave amplitude, and then the Y wave frequency, make that like 2. That's usually what I use. And then yeah, we can actually turn these on now. So now you can see the shake in action. And for beats where there aren't a shot, I usually like to turn the amplitude down a little bit, so I'll make this 0.5. And that should do the trick. And same with these two keyframes. I'll make this 0.5 amplitude instead of 1. And that should work. Okay, so now that we got that done, we're going to mess with the scale. Same with the scale for when it's not, like when the gun's not shooting and it's just a beat on the clip. I usually make it 103 instead of 105, but it's all personal preference. This is just the way that I do it. So yeah, so these aren't shots, so I'm just gonna make these 103 instead of 105. Okay, so now we're going to select the top keyframe. So this is the shake, and hit F9, and then go into the graph editor and select all of the, don't select the bottom here, select the top keyframes where the amplitude, gosh, can't speak, is, and then you can drag it down to sort of like a slope shape, and then do the same on the scale. So F9 on all the keyframes, and then just on the top ones do that. So now this is what we have. So yeah, that's basically my shake. I think this might have been a little messed up here. Yeah, I think I may need a little more than 103 for this pump. Huh. Oh, whoops, I forgot I don't have transform on. Never mind. Sorry about that. Okay, make this one 103 again. Okay, whoops. Alright, this is what it should look like. Just make this a little bigger. Alright, preview that. So yeah, looks pretty good. That's the way I do pan crop. I'll adjust it a little bit depending on like what's going on in the clip, but I think that looks pretty good. So if you want to copy these settings exactly, like I'd prefer if you didn't, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll have the I think it's .ffx in the file where I have this project and the clips and the cinematics and stuff, so you can just save it as a preset. So yeah, in the finished clip that I rendered here, I also did something different. Is I color corrected the clips, which I recommend everybody do before they do any of their CCs. Or I guess that's sort of the wrong word. But I balanced out the colors. So see how the colors in this clip don't really match up with the colors in this clip, like the cinematic. Like there's much more contrast in this clip than the cinematic. The way you fix that and make it level is you search up levels and drag that into your effects, and it should show a little graph here, and you just want to make this, because usually if there's a flat line, that means that there's no black in the image. So what you want to do is just drag this to wherever it starts the waveform, and then same with the top. So just like that. So now the contrast matches a lot more. And if it's a little too, you can change the colors too. If it's a little like dark or a little light, then you can change that as well. And you can go into the separate channels and change it to make it a little more cyan or blue or whatever. So I'm just going to make this a little blue. And then you can copy the levels, Control C, onto the other cinematics as well. So that looks a little too blue actually. So I'll just change that. So right there. So that should look pretty good. I'll put the correction on that too. And yeah, so that's basically it. I'll probably be doing some other tutorials on how like RSMB and effects and sharpen and all that stuff. Just everything else that I do in edit. But yeah, this is like the basics. This is what I work with usually. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll have this folder zip thingy in the description if you want to download it. And yeah, I'll see you later.